All right. Welcome back to the Mitten Athletics Live podcast. This is episode number 2. As always, this will be sponsored by Mitten Athletic Supplies, selling high quality track and field equipment through Gill Athletics. And we're here for what you need. We are your hosts, Aaron Ide and Colin Hunter.
That's me.
That's me.
That's me.
Hopefully you guys enjoyed episode 1. And
Hey, we got some views on it, so that's cool.
Yeah, we did. We did more than I thought we'd get, honestly, after posting it and having no idea what to expect. And if you made it all the way through, thank you very much.
Everybody's got to start somewhere.
Yep. And we'll come back to these early episodes, I hope, one day and laugh about them.
You might. I don't know if I will. Coming back to original material.
Yeah, but then I get to laugh about the background of my unfinished basement because.
Yeah. So what's the timeline on your basement there? What's the dream?
I mean, if you're asking me, I'm hoping to have everything. I'd like to have drywall up, finished, hung by end of the year. If you ask Kate, sometime in the next, I don't know, month.
Your kids might have a cool place to hang out when they're in high school.
Hey, listen, this basement right now, I'll show you one day. This basement is set up for kids.
All right.
We got a jungle gym down here. We got a swing that's hanging right above my head that I had to put up for this. This is like the kids' mecca down here for playing. Oh, all right. Well, today's episode, we're going to kind of backtrack a little bit, something we probably should have done in episode 1, but we're going to go a little deep dive into who we are, where we came from, why we like track or field. No, I'm just kidding. And just, an overall overview of who we are. And then we have a topic at the end that we'd like to kind of bring up every week with guests and just talk through if you could change something in the MHSA or multiple things, what would it be? Why?
Or maybe NCAA or NIIA, depending on who the guest is.
Absolutely. Maybe. We'll see. Hey, maybe we get lucky. All right. Well, I'll start. Maybe go back and forth a little bit here, but
let's go. Yeah.
Let's do the first couple.
Back and forth.
Yeah. All right. Well, like I said, I'm Aaron Ide. I am born and raised in the Byron Center area, so I'm one of those guys that is here and just never leaves. I tried to leave once, but
tried to leave.
Didn't work out, so I'm back. Yeah, I went to Byron Center High School. Ooh, that was a long time ago. 2007, I graduated. And was fortunate enough to spend a couple of years doing track there. Had some okay success for the limited time I was there, and I mean, I guess enough to be able to be fortunate enough to throw at Michigan State University. And
you started as a sophomore or a junior?
Junior.
Okay.
Yep. I was a baseball player my whole life, and it didn't work out my junior year. And a couple of friends decided, hey, you should try this, and wasn't going to. Came out for one practice, thought, I really like this, but I'm not going to tell them that. So I came back out for another one and just kept coming. And here we are.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was 2000.
That's got to be how many interviews have you heard from either athletes or coaches? And that's the exact same story, whether it's a soccer player that became a cross-country runner, football player, or a kid or somebody, hey, my friends, I already play sports, and my friends invited, I didn't do anything in the spring, so my friend invited me out, and that seems to be a through line. But
it's one of those things, because I think, when we're young, everybody pushes football, baseball, basketball as you get a little older, volleyball, whatever it is. But very few places say, hey, we have a track program for a track and field program for a third grader, second grader, fourth grader. Very few places do that. But those are the ages where you start playing other sports. So by the time you get to high school, that's what you know. So yeah, I was fortunate enough. I through under a very good coach at Byron Center and went to state and spent 5 years there. I redshirted my freshman year, 4 years competing. I got the opportunity to travel to a lot of different places and compete against a lot of very, very good athletes who are still competing today. And
Who was the best athlete that you threw against?
Joe Kovacs.
Oh yeah, all right. Yep, there you go.
Yeah, I
Penn State, right?
Penn State. Yep.
Did
I
you
was
overlap with Daryl Hill or no?
Daryl Hill he might have been a freshman my senior year, but I got to watch him throw when we went back with Michigan
Oh, really?
State. Yeah.
Because he just retired. I think he's coaching and doing a little bit
Big
of announcing
homie,
now.
yeah.
So he's younger than you though?
He's younger than me. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, I would say him Joe Kovacs, and probably Ryan Whiting fits right up there too. Arizona State. I got a couple opportunity to throw against him a couple times. That was a lot of fun. Yeah, I mean, I got an opportunity to, just really see the sport for what it was and watch it grow. And it was a lot of fun. The Big Ten still is a very difficult throwing conference. So yeah, that's a big background for me. Currently I am married, have been married since 2012, and got 3 kids. We just adopted one and are currently fostering 2 others. So life is a little busy right now. We got 8 months, just over 2, and almost 6.
And that's all within the past. Last indoor season is when you got the 2 foster kids, right? So
December 1, 23.
You guys went from 0 to 3 in the span of 6 months, or well, basically not quite 6 months, 7 months. Yeah,
7 months. Yep, 0 to 3.
A year later,
months. Here we are, and you know what? Love it. It has its challenges, and as everything does, but it's awesome. Love it. And I'm probably going to be the oddball in most of this, but I do not coach, or sorry, I do not coach. That's wrong. I do not teach in the schools. I am not the one who, is a high school teacher, high school anything. I actually work in construction. I do construction management, and yeah, that's me.
We'll hit the second half of those questions in a little bit.
Yep.
Okay. Real quick, what was your high school throwing coach's name?
Sam Angel.
And he's Mary's dad, right?
Yep. So if people who know anything about the Michigan throw, especially Michigan throwing, but Michigan track, I mean, Mary Angel was up until a few years ago, and maybe still is. I have to go back and look, but the state record holder for shot and disc. And she ended up throwing both at North Carolina and Kentucky, and she had her dad threw for, oh boy, I'll come back and tell me I'm wrong, but I believe it's U of M back in the day. And I was just very fortunate to have an amazing coach who believed in me and, put in the time. And yeah, so.
And the head coach was?
That would be Sanger, Steve Sanger.
Okay. So this is before Reinstein.
This is before Reinstein. Yep.
All right. And the program was still split at that point. So was the girls' coach, what's his name?
Prindle. Yep. Sanger and Prindle were our other couple of coaches and, head coaches.
What was Sanger's specialty?
Pole vault.
Okay.
Pole vault. And that was, we had a really good run there with pole vaulters too. We had, oh boy, there was, in the course of about 5 years, we had 3 kids that were very, very good. Maybe more. I'm probably going to miss somebody there, but between Fisher brothers, Mike and Matt Fisher, Matt ended up coming to state with me for a year. And then Chris Scher, we had 3 very good pole vaulters in a very short span.
So at state, you were a discus thrower mainly, right?
No, I was shot. Shot was my main event.
Oh, really?
Okay. Yep, I threw a little bit of disc, a little bit of weight and hammer, but I was a shot thrower. I mean, most of the time, if I was throwing the other ones, it was either for fun, practicing for shot, maybe throwing at the home meet. But
But in high school, wasn't disc the main thing? Or am I remembering all this wrong?
No. High school, I was really kind of back and forth. I pulled my rotator cuff my junior year, so I couldn't throw shot after the first meet. So all I threw was disc. Qualified for state and disc my junior year, and then I trained all fall, winter for track, and then I threw shot and disc my senior year, qualified in both.
So. Okay, well, looks like I am not as good a friend as I thought I was. So that's funny.
It's funny.
Okay, we'll come back to this stuff, I'm sure. Do you remember your high school and college PRs?
High school is 52'8" and 151 feet 11 and a half inches. And I remember that because the school record was 152 feet even. And then college, it was 56 and change, 50 somewhere right in there. I can go look it up. I should probably go look it up while you're talking. I'll come back to it.
All right,
we'll come back.
All right, so and we'll add that he's our throwing coach at Byron Center. We'll get a little bit to that. I'm Colin Hunter. I was also born and raised in West Michigan. Grew up in Kentwood. Spent a few years in Dorr. My parents bought land down there, so I've been in the southwest Kent County corridor for my whole life. I was actually homeschooled, so I did not participate in track in high school or college. I did not do any athletics in college of any kind. Not that good an athlete. I played football from 6th grade to 11th grade. So there are some homeschool sports. They don't compete in the MHSAA. That could be in another entire episode about some stuff. But like, for instance, basketball teams can play MHSAA teams. So I had friends that played homeschool basketball, and they would play against some of the small Christian schools. Football, though, that was not allowed, because then the football teams would sacrifice playoff points, and we all know how that goes when scheduling. So that was a big no-no. So I played offensive and defensive line. Was incredibly undersized, but not athletic enough to do anything else. But I loved every minute of it. Still love football. It was my favorite thing for most of my life. Just love being on a team, practice, games, all of it. I knew the playbook front and back, and even if I wasn't quite good enough to execute, but I loved it enough to go play defensive tackle and get buried every play so that linebackers could go have all the fun.
You look like a defensive tackle, so that makes sense.
Maybe the first person to say that. I think I weighed less back then than I do now.
Well, while we're talking about football real quick, and might intrigue most people, I played one total year of football my entire life. And that was it. I was not a football player.
What grade?
3rd grade, playing with 5th graders.
Oh, that's the problem right there.
Well, when you're the biggest kid and there's parents going, he's too big to play with our kids, they just keep moving you up until parents quit complaining. And then so that's how I started coaching. I coached the same teams at the same organization I played for. There was a league. It was basically a travel league, made up of a few small homeschool teams in the Michigan and Indiana area. And our youth teams just competed against Kent County middle school teams. And that's where I got my start coaching. So I coached a guy from church who also was coaching in that organization at the time, asked me if I wanted to
come coach football with him. I think I was 20 at the time. And I tried it out, loved it. And a few years later, I became the head coach of our 7th and 8th grade team. And so I got my first taste of head coaching around the age of like 22 or 23 with youth coaching. And that was honestly I learned probably some of the best lessons that I could. Coaching for a small organization that doesn't have a lot of resources at the youth level. I think a lot of people could serve to, again, in track, it's kind of tough, right? Like a lot of our youth organizations are club. That's a whole nother thing. I think a lot of coaches could be served really well to start, especially if you want to be a head coach, start as low as possible. The stakes are lower. A lot of the mistakes that you make have less of an impact. But anyway, back to the.
That's a good point too. When you talk about like the level of not support, that's not a good way to put it, but you say you word it less
resources.
Yes, less.
So resource. It was a homeschool organization. I had to take care of all the physical forms. Had to take care of inventorying supplies, and I still got to do that, but there's a difference between inventorying like hundreds of shoulder pads and hundreds of jerseys. Like big difference there.
Yeah. And did you have hundreds of shoulder pads at the homeschool?
Well, over the years you accumulate, but still when it's Wednesday or it's game day and kids like, I forgot my helmet. Right. Stuff happens. And yeah, but still tight on resources. Always running out of like knee pads and always running out of hip pads, stuff like that.
Yep.
And now I coach in a big public school. I don't got to worry about forms. I don't got to worry about signups. That's just odd. And I'm sure there's high school coaches that probably still have to worry about that stuff. So
I think there's a lot. I think you and I can both agree that we are very blessed when it comes to both where we coach and the support we get from above.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. So I spent some time. I got moved up to being the defensive coordinator of the high school team for a few years. And then my buddy, who was the head coach, he had to be done. So then I became the head coach of that team for a few years. There's nothing much like heading into a game with 12 players and leaving a game with 10 players. Hard lessons learned. So yeah, I coached for almost a
score that game.
What's that?
Did you guys score that game?
I believe we scored once.
Hey, can't remember. You didn't get blown out in a game when you showed up with 12 people and left with 10. I mean, what more?
It was in Indiana. I think it was Elkhart, Indiana.
So at least it was a short drive too. Right around the corner.
Right. So I coached football for almost a decade. So back when I was in high school, my dad was a runner, local 5Ks and Grand Rapids Riverbank run and stuff. When I was going into high school, I was going into sophomore year, and we had a new coach who liked to run kids a lot. Big into conditioning, old school conditioning. And so he's like, you should start running with me just to be ready. And so I did. Started running with Dad. I did a few Grand Rapids Turkey Trot, local 5Ks. So our coach, this had a formative experience on me too as a head coach. Our coach would run us 1,000 yards if there was a fumble. And one game we fumbled it 7 times.
Ooh.
And so he didn't even show up. It was an assistant coach just blowing a whistle for an hour and a half. Um, and that's, in my opinion, not the greatest job as a head coach, but we are where we are now today, so that's good.
Yep.
So anyway, started running, and then started working at a pizza place in Door, BC Pizza.
Gotta love it. BC Pizza.
And was eating a lot of pizza and drinking a lot of Mountain Dew, and gained a lot of weight. Looked more like an offensive lineman than I did when I was in high school. So I got married in about 2009, I believe. 2009. And when we got married, we both, me and my wife Lisa, we were like, we need to get back into better shape. And so I started running again. Realized I liked it a lot. Lost a ton of weight. Realized I probably should have done that in high school. And eventually, it became like my main hobby. Eventually, I started learning a whole lot more about running, about physiology. If I had paid more attention in A&P in college, it would have helped me.
Yep.
But that was not the time for that. And so eventually I didn't go straight from football to track. There were a few years off. Graduated from Grand Valley, was a mechanical engineer, did that for a while. And had our first kid, Connor. He's just turned 10. Ivy is almost 5. And we would have had one between the two. Taya, she would be, I believe, 6. She had a condition and died the day she was born. It seems kind of weird to, mention here, but a really formative experience in my life, and I am a lot of the way I am because of it. So
you don't gotta. I feel for you.
Yep,
I do.
So anyway, I stopped coaching football because it was just between work. I was kind of moving up in the world in the company I was at, between work and family had to be done for a time. So fast forward, learn a lot about running through coaching myself, and just wanted more, still wanted to get back into coaching somehow. Through all of this, I kind of grew disillusioned with engineering. Had some really good jobs, but the consumerism part was starting to get to me pretty bad. So I wanted to find a way out of that. And I actually got laid off from a job. I had a few jobs before then and was trying to find my way, but find my fit. And the place I was at was a smaller mom and pop type machine builder. So company needs X machine, we'll design and make it for them. And I was a luxury item to them. That was the time when the first steel tariffs hit, and so the industry we were in went down pretty hard. So I got laid off.
Whenever you can say that you're a luxury to a company, that can either be a really good thing or
it's a good thing when times are good, and it's a bad thing when times are bad.
Yep.
So all the while I'm trying to find my way into a different industry, and I don't know what. And the head coaching job at Byron Center was open, and on a whim I applied for it.
Remember what year that was?
It was 2010.
because I do.
probably applied for it. Yeah. Well, it was probably February of 2019.
Yep.
And any like long tenured track coaches might get pissed off at my story because I really didn't have, like, I'd been a head coach of small teams. But I absolutely lucked into a really good position. So I can remember it like, so it's shoveling snow today. Whenever I shovel snow, I am reminded of this because I remember it was March at this point, and I'm shoveling snow in the driveway, trying to break up, all the ice that builds up. And it's nice and sunny, and Blake Muller calls and says, "Hey, do you want the job? If you want the job, it's yours." And I basically accepted it over the phone without talking it over with Lisa officially.
Just so we're clear, for people who listen outside of Michigan at all, track and field outdoor season starts in March in Michigan.
Right. Yes.
So at that table.
Yep. So many crazy things happened for us to be having this conversation right now. So many just nuts things.
That year, sorry, don't mean to bug in, but the year prior to that, end of the year, I got talked to by, at the time there was just 3 coaches, 2 head coaches who coached other events, but we had 2 head coaches and me, and they both said, "Hey, we're done." Multiple reasons. I mean, one was a child, one was just done coaching, but they both said we're done. This was in May. Well, yeah, May, June is when they. Now we're talking March the following year.
Right.
And I'm sitting here the whole time going, I'm the only coach that's returning to Byron's track and field team. I'm down in Florida for the first week of practice because, well, once every 3 years we go on a family vacation. I was down there. Like, I literally don't know if we're going to have any more coaches or if I'm going to try to figure out a coach this entire team.
And I mean, we didn't have a small team either.
Nope. And then all of a sudden it was like practice started on Monday, and it was like the Thursday or Friday before, I get a text from Blake that says, "Hey, just want to let you know, I think we found somebody, would like you to come in." I'm like, "Well, I can't, I'm in Florida." He's like, "Well, would you be open for a phone call?" Yep. So then all of a sudden, that's how we first met, on a phone call.
You didn't meet me on a phone call.
Didn't we call?
No, you might have met Juan. You didn't meet
me.
Maybe
it was Juan. Okay, maybe that was it. I bet it was. You're right. It was Juan. On a phone call, and then I show up to practice on Monday, Tuesday, whenever I got back, and I'm like, "Oh, hey, well, it's nice to meet you. Guess we're gonna try this."
Yep. Yeah. So, I had a little bit of experience being a head coach at a different level in different sport. And Juan was also hired. He had a lot of track experience, but he had no desire to be a head coach. So they kind of hired me to be the face, and they hired Juan to be the brains behind the scenes. That worked for a little bit. And yeah, now we're here. So yeah.
I mean, it's crazy. It's crazy.
Okay. So anyway, kind of buried the lead there. Eventually, so I also the next week got a job as an engineer again, for a commercial heating and ventilation company. That was probably the most rewarding engineering job I had. You
always seemed happy.
There was cool. So I did some really cool projects designing machines. I could have got to work on machines for Nike, which were really sweet. But for every one of those, there was 10 more. Here's a new part that's going in the 2020 Silverado that you're not going to see for 4 years, and we're gonna scrap a whole lot of metal before then. So I was good at it, but didn't make me happy. So anyway, so yeah, I got another engineering job. Eventually, the perfect position for me opened up in the high school, and so now I teach in the high school. I teach CTE engineering, basically machine shops, CNC, CAD, that kind of stuff. So now I'm 100% in the high school. Love it. Wouldn't change it.
Lesson right there for if there are any kids listening to this at all. Pick a career you want to do. Pick a career you're going to love, and the rest of it will work out.
Mm-hmm.
You'll figure the rest of it out. But
and that's not to say I don't. I love designing. I love making things. I love it so much. I love the high school experience.
But the engineering side of it, the true like working for an engineering firm, wasn't what you were looking for.
It's not even that. It's just that I don't love consumerism, and so we make these machines that make 11 billion of this part, and then we would have runoff, and that means the company comes in to do the test it before we ship it to the company, our customer. And you see these bins full of parts come in, and then you see these bins full of scrap parts go out, and just the waste.
Yeah.
And the every like seeing like, oh, next year's truck is even bigger than this year's truck. Just that stuff. That's the stuff that got to me.
Yeah. All right. That makes sense.
But yeah, I think it's sometimes, if you're stuck and you don't quite, you want to do something different, you don't know what, just hang on. And when you see something that you should jump at it.
Yeah. And then all of a sudden, here we are. I mean, look at you. 6 years later, you made
going into our 7th season.
And I wouldn't change it, honestly. Yeah. So, I mean, I guess I didn't cover my coaching background side of it when I was there. Mine is a lot less exciting or experienced than yours. I was 2014. I was working construction. Had my experience from throwing, but my boss at the time said, "Hey, you know what? My nephew is a junior. He doesn't have a coach. Local high school. You want to go help out? Sure. If you're gonna let me, pay me for a couple hours."
Was this after the California?
Yep.
Diversion.
Yep. Yeah. So I graduated Michigan State. Went to California. Was out there for a year, just over almost a year, almost exactly. Love the company, but huge construction company, but just we realized that California wasn't for us. Started having nieces and nephews, wanted to be back home around family. Came back, got hired into the company I'd worked for in the summers for 3 years. I knew I liked working there. But then all of a sudden the opportunity came up to be able to coach. And he's like, "Hey, you want to coach?" "Sure, I'll go out there and help out." Well, I was just a volunteer at the high school. They didn't have a coach, and then they had a throws coach come in who had no knowledge, which, I mean, I had knowledge in throwing, but not in coaching it. I had an idea of how it should work. And so the first couple of years were definitely trial and error for me. I mean, a lot of stuff that.
What high school was this?
South Christian High School.
Boo.
Yeah, no qualms there. They had a,
For those who don't know, South Christian is like the Christian school in the Byron Center area.
Yeah,
we don't lose a lot of people to them. Like South Christian people are South Christian people. Lots of families go just have always historically gone there. So, but it's fun. It's fun to whenever somebody's wearing navy blue in the building, we give each other a hard time. So
it's an old school rivalry that we don't see as much anymore, as Byron has grown a lot and South has not seen as much growth, which, as a Christian school, normally you don't see them become the biggest school in the area. And not that we're the biggest school in the area by any means, but from where we came from, it's a lot different.
Yep.
So I coached there for 2 years. I was there 14 and 15. I coached there. And then I was at the regional meet in 2015, and the head coach for Byron came up to me. He was a teacher when I was at Byron. He was
this is Ryan Stein now, right?
Yep. And he came up to me and, hey, what are you doing next year? And at the time, I'm like, I have no idea. The kid, I was there for one kid essentially, but because of my boss's nephew, but I was helping everybody. But that was it. Like once I'm done, I'm like, I don't know, I'm not volunteering here again next year. And he's like, hey, do you want to come coach at Byron? I hadn't really thought about it, but sure. So basically, it was right there at regionals, accepted the throwing position for Byron. And
man, I'm just gonna, if I was a head coach and one of my assistants got poached out from me at regionals, I would.
It would have been different because I was a volunteer. I was
still
nothing. I was no part of the school other than I showed up at practices when I could, and I showed up at the meets. That was it. I was not the throws coach.
Here's a caveat that I'll give it. If any of you guys got a head coaching gig, that would be awesome. Right.
Yeah. Right. That's fair.
But and if it was like JP, because JP is one of our lower, he was a volunteer last year. If he got a sweet job, then that's good. And it's good for us. It's good for a staff, like when somebody gets offered a job. So
it's good for the sport as a whole. You get somebody who knows what they're doing, move on
at regionals, especially like throwing.
I know.
Field event coaches, it's rough. It's rough out there.
I mean, admittedly, looking back at that time, being a volunteer coach when they had a throws coach, even though he didn't know what he was doing, it was a really weird dynamic, and it's something that I'm not a proponent of. I don't like it. I looking back on it now, I didn't know at the time, but I don't like it. Nope. It was a bad situation, but it's fine. Right. We made through it. And so then went to Byron in 2016, and I actually came into a very, very good throws group at the time, and it was awesome. And I've had years of 30 some odd throwers. I was down to 16 at one point, back up to 34 last year. Yeah. So, I mean, I've had it all over, seen it all. I mean, I've seen Byron at times where we're literally not scoring at a conference meet, or hardly. I mean,
Peckle still scored.
Well,
Peckle scored that year.
We had a few, but I mean, we're going in placing last at the conference meet, very few points. Literally looking at the 4x4, I think there was a year we might not have run the 4x4, or if we did,
right.
We ran.
That's kind of like one of the. So the first,
it was like
parents would always tell me about that situation where we're just begging kids to stay just to run the 4x4, and it's like, that's rough.
Yeah,
that's rough. And now that's the thing that we've been like, listen, if we're gonna be good at one thing, it's the 4x4, baby.
And it's awesome. And I've gone back and forth on what was my favorite race on the track, and what is the 4x4. Yeah, I don't know how you can't love it. It's the most hype event in the track when there's something on the line, because it's always the last race. And holy cow, you get a good race going, it's awesome to watch.
Yep. So Ryan Stein, he tells me, so he's just down the hall from me. And he's told me bits and pieces of stuff going on. And the funny part is, when I was hired, the part of the problem of you almost becoming the only coach is there was basically not an athletic administration at that point.
No.
I don't know when. Who was it? Was it Dan something?
Yeah.
Whoever the AD was. I don't know when he stepped down, but Blake, who was the assistant AD, was like the acting AD and interviewing to become the AD. Blake, who I think he's my age, maybe a little younger.
Well, he's younger than I am.
Well, then he's younger than me. Years. Yeah. So, yeah, that's at a school 1,300 kids big, to not have a functioning athletic department it's not a good situation. So, but Ryan Stein's told me stories, and the one thing he always says is hiring you was the best decision he ever made.
Yeah.
So
I still think he's crazy, but
well, if
I
you weren't,
appreciate the kind words.
you there's a, I forget what the exact lyric is, but there's a song. I think it's a Kanye West song, which is ironic. Because I don't listen to a lot of Kanye anymore. But it's like, it's basically tell people that you love them when you can.
Yeah.
Like tell people that you appreciate them when you can, because you don't know when you're not going to be able to. So I don't care if that embarrasses you. Like inheriting you was like the thing that helped me survive. So
well, I appreciate it.
Would have been rough.
Yeah. So, it's been a fun ride, that's for sure, and I'm really thankful to be a part of it. And so, yeah, that's our background, the two of us, coaching life. We got a couple more pieces here. I guess where and when did you fall in love with track and field? When was that switch for you?
So ironically, like I said, I didn't run in high school. But one of my like first sporting memories is Michael Johnson. The 96 games, the Golden Spikes, and just like I've always loved the Summer Olympics. And always love like swimming at the Olympics is always kind of fun to watch, but like track at the Olympics always got me, always grabbed me.
Well, in the minute you talk about those two things, I mean it's track in the water.
Right.
I mean,
right. So
all the same types of races.
So yeah, so I think it got its hook in me early. And then like really learning about it later in life. It's I don't know if there's like a single fall in love point. It's just like it became my favorite thing.
Yeah.
And yeah, it all goes back. That's why, yeah, that all goes back to the Olympics probably. Yeah.
That's awesome. Mine honestly was when I started my junior year. I mean, first couple weeks of practice, didn't really know, and I think it probably kind of came to light about halfway through my junior year when I realized, like, hey, I may be okay at this, but not even just that. I really just love being here, even if I wasn't okay.
Right,
I
exactly.
just love being here. I love being around the people. I love the way the coaches acted. Now, I think that for me, that was a big part of it. You know, my coaches, I had good coaches, not just because they were knowledgeable, but because they coached the way I think a coach should coach, where they are there to support the athletes, to grow the athletes, not just in the event or what they're doing, but as people. And they're not there to belittle somebody to try to get the most out of somebody. They were truly there to try to figure out why we wanted to be there, why we enjoyed it, and what can we do to help you grow. And then that really, honestly, really taught me a lot about me and how I wanted to coach if I ever coached one day. And at the time, that wasn't even wasn't my memory, my thoughts at all, which I think a lot of kids are that way. Even in college, a lot of kids don't realize until after they get out, like, oh man, coaching's a thing. But yeah, people do it. Everyone has to do it. So yeah, so that's I think it's kind of where I really fell in love with it.
And that leads into the next one. What's your favorite part about coaching track? Like, obviously, I love distance running. I love all the events. But what you said right there is like, track has got something for everybody.
All inclusive. We don't cut people.
Even the kids who they're never going to score. They're just there because their friends are there. Like I really believe track you can do so good with just the core of educational athletics. There are coaches who complain about the JV kids. I will complain about having 50 heats of the 200 at some point in the next 4 months.
I'm going to hold you to it and be like, don't forget this.
Yeah, well, every kid thinks that they're going to run the 200, and guess what? I need some more milers, man. I need some more milers. So we're going to move you, child. But no, so like if you want to do your best. Like we got a spot for you somewhere, man.
Yep.
And the best coaches are you hear people talk about who impacted them, and it's always the ones you just talked about, the ones that we're going to try to be as good as we possibly can, and we're going to try to make sure that everybody has a good time doing it.
Yep.
And that's worked out for us pretty well so far.
It has. And you know what? If it works out as well as it has right now, and this is where we end up with it, and we don't crest that next, you know what? Hey, it's not going to take away from
it's hard to become a champion, man.
Yep. And that is the overall goal of everybody, right? But I would much rather see our athletes grow into better people than I would ever see us make that level and give up what we're trying to do.
Right. Yeah. It's tough as a distance coach. Like, you see so many kids that ran in college never put their shoes on again once they graduate, and like it's like, what's the most important thing for me? Do I want like, I want champions, and hopefully over the course of my career I can coach some. But also, like, when kid graduates and tells me like, I just really love running now, man, that's worth all of it.
Yep. Yeah, and I think I'm going to piggyback right on that with, like, my favorite part of track is the growth of the kids, the growth of watching them, every year. If you don't get done with every year, and it's harder than it was the previous year to watch the seniors leave, I mean, then what are you here for? And that's my thought on it. Like, every year it gets harder, and my favorite moments of coaching are not from when I'm coaching, but when I get a text from a previous athlete just checking in, letting me know how they're doing. Or you get the invite to the first one that gets married, and you get an invite to their wedding, and you're like, holy cow, what? I mean, that that you made an impact on a kid's life, and when they're coming to you after they're done with you as a coach, like that right there, to me, that's my favorite part, is watching them grow up and watching them what they can become, and knowing that hopefully in some small way you at least helped mold or lead them in that direction. Or lead them in the way that they can choose that path because they feel confident, because they know that they'll be okay. Like that, for me, that is the best part about coaching.
That's the cool thing, because, like, back to the actual coaching part, everything's measurable. So every kid's got something they can chase. And like, to me, like, I think some of the best coaches should be judged by, hey, what's your JV kids PRs like progression look like?
Yeah.
It's really, this is an entire episode by itself. It's really easy to coach champions. It's really easy. Just don't break them. Don't be prideful, and don't break them.
Yeah.
Right. Getting the most out of the ones that maybe they don't want to be there initially. Maybe their parents are forcing them. Maybe they're doing just for gym credit, and trying to make an environment for them to succeed too. And then when they do succeed and they do progress, like, that's the money right there.
Yeah, 100%. That's a really good point right there. When you can get the kid who's there for a gym credit, and that's 2 years, and every school does it different, but you can get 2 gym credits, so 2 years of a sport, you can get it. If you can get them to come back for a third year, you've already won.
Yep.
Right there. They've moved past the kid for a gym credit.
For every say 4 of those, is there one who I'm probably going to kick off the team because I found pizza on the throwing hill one too many times? We're going to have those.
You're always going to.
Yep.
But it only takes one.
The things that happen when Coach Ide has a work conference.
Yeah. Well, this year I won't have it.
The captain comes down to Coach Hunter and says, "Hey, we got this kid who just ordered a pizza, and I'm tired of him. and then I got to go put on my head coaching hat.
Well, and that, I mean, that story right there speaks wonders to what we're doing too. That you do have captains who will do that, who will come down and say that.
Right.
There's a lot of programs that their captains are the ones up there eating pizza. They're the ones up there
Right.
ordering the pizza. I mean, and that's not just track, any sport. Like we have an amazing group of kids, and we have been very fortunate that they have as much buy-in, and I think that speaks to what we're doing. So,
Yep.
yeah.
Okay, we got to wrap this up soon.
Okay, we're gonna go into.
Do you want to hit changes or what you're looking forward to?
I think we can did looking forward to last episode. So let's do changes.
Okay.
You could change one. Let's do one or two.
And this is kind of in light of something that a lot of people would change is happening. So the Mitten clinic is happening this weekend. If we don't have new standards by this time next week, I'm gonna start getting real annoying with Mitka. Like, come on, guys. And if it's the MHSAA, but Mitka's the one that I can get a hold of. So we're getting early qualifying marks in Michigan for the first time. Early qualifiers, EQ.
You did it. Good job.
So what it used to be is you would have to come top 2 in your region. So if you finish second in the 100-meter dash, you make it, or if you hit an additional qualifying mark. And depending on the event in the region, that it might be really easy or really tough. Of course, the qualifying marks themselves don't change region to region, but some regions are really good at sprints, some are really good at field events, some are really good at distance, and some are really good at all of them. Our region's pretty tough. D1 level, there's not many weak spots. So this year we're getting, for the first time, an early qualifying mark. We don't know what it is yet in the exact stipulations, but there are certain meets where you'll be able to, if you hit this mark, and everybody expects that they're going to be a little bit harder. Then you get to, I almost said punch your ticket, and I hate that phrase. So anyway, so that way, okay, I get hurt at the wrong time or have a bad day. Was it D1 last year? Well, I forget what division it was. The top discus thrower in the state didn't make the state finals, wasn't it?
Yep, that was D1. And
top discus thrower. He was like, was he a 190 kid?
195, I believe.
Oh man, and he didn't make the state finals because he had a bad regional day.
And there are arguments both ways that, hey, when you get to NCAAs or you get to the next level, like, that's what it is. Like, you get one shot at this and you get one everything. My argument to that is that NCAA's kind of moved away from that by doing super regions where you only have 2 locations. And it makes it a little bit different when you only have 2 locations, where, for me, weather is the big thing. Weather plays such a big piece into what we do. And these super regions come in and they take top, I'll get it wrong, 16, I believe, out of the super region. And so you have the opportunity, even on an off day, that as long as you can still stay top 16, you're there.
And usually for people at that level, like, the margins are so thin. Like, a bad day could be a foot.
Right.
Like,
but if you go in and everyone's throwing, and you're essentially throwing, half the country is going somewhere where there's probably potentially bad weather, and half the country is going to be somewhere over in California or somewhere where most likely it's good weather. And that's what it is. But when you look at the MHSAA regions, you have, let me get it wrong, 14 regions, 12 regions per division.
I don't know off the top of my head.
You have more than 2,
and you have them on different days. So one might be on Friday, one might be on Saturday.
Different locations all over the state, north, south, inland, east, west, they're all over. So all of a sudden we've had regions where we're competing in a downpour, and you go an hour and 15 minutes north, which actually is closer to where we would technically go. and it's sunny and beautiful and everything else. Well, you get 7 people that make it out, and our region could have, I'm just going to use an example, our region could have 3 of the top discus throwers, and one of them makes it out, and you have 3 of the top 10 discus throwers that don't make it into the state meet. The intention of the state meet is to bring all the best athletes together.
Yep.
So I think the EQs should be harder. I think they should bring in the ability for the best athletes to get there. And it shouldn't be something where we're just trying to build a huge number of kids at the state meet, but to make sure that all the true best kids are there and make it the best state meet it can be.
Yep. So I'll let you go first.
All right.
If you could change, let's just say a system, track and field in Michigan, whatever, what would you do?
Mine would actually be adding a couple of more events to the track, or both. I think if you look at a lot of our athletes who compete, most of them, especially runners, have the opportunity to compete in at least 3 events. Whether it's your sprint, the 1, 2, 4x1, 4x2, you can cross over to the 4. You got the 4x8, 4x4, 4x8. You got most mile and 2 mile runners. Now, you're not going to run all 3 at the same time, but 2 mile runners can run the 800. Most of your
you'll see teams that have it on the line. It's probably happening.
Well, they will. But I mean, yes, you're right. It happens.
It's hard.
Most of your high jumpers can also do any of those. Long jumpers. Most of your hurdlers can also be sprinters. Anyway, I'd love to see a third throws event added. Most of your throwers are not runners, and I'm not saying they can't be, but most of what it takes to be a thrower inherently makes you probably not the best runner. So I would love to see a third throws event added.
Javelin.
The easiest one we'd ever have to get in would be hammer. Yes, javelin would be fun. Javelin doesn't really, again, correspond to most of your normal throws physiques.
No, but the hammer makes more sense.
But the hammer would be fun to watch, and I understand why they don't. It takes a different cage to make it technically legal, and it takes the right.
Let's say we're in the realm of we figure the resources out somewhere.
Yeah.
So hammer.
So if you're going to switch to hammer and it's going to happen, let us know. Mitten Athletic Supplies, we can sell you some sweet hammer cages.
And hammer. The hammer's not the problem.
Hammers, gloves, what do you need? We got it. All right. How about you?
Let's see. Let's go for 5 more minutes. So I'll talk about one for a little bit, and then we each give one more.
Okay.
Mine might piss some people off. I would like to see a minimum certification required for head coaches.
I like that take. Okay.
Again, we're gonna play like they're, because sure, school X doesn't have the money to pay for clinics, right? Let's play like the resources are taken care of somehow. Let's play Fantasyland. Okay, so the resources are there somehow. USATF is the low-hanging fruit one, and there are people who hate USATF. The organization is what it is, but I will say that USATF level 1, and maybe it's USTF CCCA, whatever. I don't care what it is.
Yep.
I think head coaches should have a baseline knowledge of every single event. And that level 1 certification gives you that baseline knowledge of every single event. For it, just from a safety perspective.
I can get behind that. I love that.
If you're done, I need to be able to go up on the hill on any given day and take care of the throwers. I'm a distance coach. I love the mile. The mile is my favorite. But there are too many running coaches who are head coaches who do not know enough about the field events to be effective, who or vice versa. The field events, it's usually not a problem because the field event people are usually track people, like
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
track field junkies. So I think most field event people probably not the same problem.
But I still think it should hold true where if you are a high jump, long jump coach who's going to be a head coach, you should know everything else.
Right. And that doesn't mean that I'm an expert at all of it.
No.
But I have that baseline information from both a safety perspective, from a staff construction perspective, and from being able to make your team operate. So I would like to see, like I said, I don't care if it's US ATF, if it's USTF, CCCA, if it's a brand new thing.
Yep.
I would love to see and let's say it's within 3 years of being hired. So within 3 years, you got to get this done.
Yeah. Okay. I like that. I don't know if I'd even give 3. I mean, honestly, I think it should be a little quicker than that. But
well, there's MHSAA does have like a safe sport kind of class that head coaches have to take their first year. So anyway. Okay. What's number 2?
All right. I'm gonna say my number 2 would be. I think that we need to find a way, or MHSA needs to find a way to have a better control over how meets are run.
Yeah.
And I say that with there are still meets, not many, but they still exist where we're hand timing, where we are, you have one referee there who is trying to do everything, where you're just asking for not only bad information and people being able to manipulate what kids are running, kids are throwing this, that, but that is a safety issue. I mean, they're not just there to double check to make sure that, oh yeah, every corner is safe because they're ready to go. They're also double checking to make sure there isn't somebody on the track lollygagging. There isn't a hurdle that got left on the track somewhere that someone's going to not pay attention to, run around the corner, and there it is. Like, I think that these meets, and I know the MHSAA can't completely control that. And there's only so much timing. There's only so much that available in Michigan right now, which is growing. And we have a lot of very, very good organizations that are doing that. But I think finding a way to be able to have a little better control over that would definitely help continue to grow our sport and make everybody feel more comfortable that it's moving in the right direction.
Yeah, so I agree.
All right, you one more, we'll wrap it up.
2-day state meet.
Man, let's do it.
2-day state meet.
Let's do it. It should always be that way.
2-day regional meet and 2-day state meet.
Ooh, okay. If you're doing that, if you're going to do that, I want the state meet to be at all one location.
Yep.
I want all divisions one location.
Yep.
2-day state meet, but I want to see everybody. I want to see it. I want people to be competing. I just want it to be a big ordeal.
Yep. I think we could. Yep. And I know there's a lot of people that want that. I think I've heard more people that do want that than don't.
Yeah.
I don't think I've heard a single coach, because people talk about it. I don't think I've heard a single coach ever say they don't want it.
I think I can get behind that. I don't think I have either.
Do all of your field events on day 1. Or maybe just your jumps on day 1. Do your throws on day 2. Do your prelims for all your sprints on day 1. Do the 4x8 on day 1.
Yep. Maybe get one. I mean, I could even
maybe the 2 mile on day 1. Maybe the 4x8 on day 2. But shift either the 2 mile or the 4x8 to day 1.
Yep.
Get all your prelims out of the way.
Yep.
You would see some killer freaking state meets if we did it that way.
Well, and the whole point of the state meet, right, is to bring in the best athletes to get the best times, the best heights, the best distances, to let it be.
You'd see a whole lot more doubling, tripling. It would shake up team standings. Yeah, it'd be a riot.
Agreed. Okay. Well,
we'll probably talk more about that at some point. So
yep. So I want to say thank you for everyone. If you have sat through this long, we really appreciate it. Thank you for coming back for episode 2. I think the weekly cadence works well, so we will have another episode next week for week 3. And yeah, thank you again. Mitten Athletics Live. Here we are.
peace.
Peace.